I meant what I said, and I said what I meant. And an elephant's faithful 100%.
Hey guys, Nightfall here, and recently there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding, and I just wanted to clarify a video I made a couple days ago regarding EU players and the toxicity level of said players. This whole thing stemmed from a game that I came across with one of the top Zephyr players on the leaderboard this season, and after having discussed and talked to this individual in my stream, he seems like a decent person, and maybe he was just having a bad day, maybe he misunderstood my sarcasm, maybe I didn't portray my sarcasm well enough. It is the internet and it's just in-game voice chat. Things can get lost and misinterpreted quite easily. It was never my intention to ego them or anything like that. I was simply making a joke. Did things get out of hand? Maybe a little bit. Do I apologize for my part in those things getting out of hand and escalating it beyond where it should have? Yes. But I stand by what I said because it's just my observation, and based on my experience, it's true. And to help demonstrate what exactly I was talking about with the comments that I made about EU players and being toxic, I made a graph for everyone to look at so we can be on the same page. So let's look at the first blue bar. This is the number of EU players I play with on, I don't know, let's say a weekly basis in this game. So you can see it's about 10. Now these numbers aren't perfect. They're not 100% accurate, but for the portrayal of a 0 to 100 scale to make this bar graph look somewhat correct and accurate, that's the scale we're using. So I would say on average, say I play with about 10 EU players. Now, if we look at the second orange bar, we can see the number of those EU players that are toxic is about 7, which then gives us the green bar of the percentage of EU players that I play with that are toxic, 70%. Now, this doesn't mean that they are toxic individuals. This just means that the encounter that I had with them is toxic. It is very high ego, and it's just overall annoying. Now we can compare that to the same numbers on the right, where the number of NA players I play with up to 100 versus the number of those NA players that are toxic, 50, giving us the green bar. 50% of NA players that I play with are toxic, meaning 70% of EU players that I play with or against are toxic versus 50% of NA players that I play with are toxic. All I was trying to say was that the likelihood if I get into a game with one EU player and one NA player, that the EU player is going to be toxic, there is a higher chance of that happening. Not saying it's going to happen every time. I'm not saying that everybody that is from EU that plays on EU servers is toxic. I'm not saying that they all have an ego, because just as I said right in the beginning of that video, I've met some awesome EU people on this game and on other games. However, there is just something in general about the EU mindset when it comes to competitive games that causes a larger majority of them to be toxic, or at least in my experience, this is what I've found. My experience may not be 100% accurate. It may not be 100% portraying factual information, but to me it is. So when I come in contact with an EU player, I'm more apprehensive that they're going to be toxic than I am if I just run into an NA player where I basically just flip a coin to determine, are they going to be toxic or are they just going to be stupid? And I'm not going to name names, but I'll go all the way back even as far as X-Defiant days and give you some examples. It wasn't an NA player that tried to get my YouTube channel taken down with false copyright strikes. That was an EU player. And more recently, it wasn't an NA player that told me I was shit at the game because I didn't have the same stats as them, even though I had the same rank as them. That was also an EU player. The first one I called out for cheating and promoting boosting services in X-Defiant, and the most recent one was, as far as I know, a completely unprovoked by me comment. So like I said, this is just my experience. So please don't take it to mean that I think all EU players are scummy or toxic or have insanely high egos and they all need ego checks, because that is not what I said and it is not what I meant. If you're somebody from EU that watched that video and think that that's what I meant, you are part of the 70% of the people that I'm talking about in this graph. So once again, I apologize for the escalation of that interaction with that person, and I apologize for my part in it and the misunderstanding that took because of what I tried to say didn't come across right. But I 100% stand by what I said in that video, and that's just my experience. But let me know down in the comments if you have a different experience with EU players, if you're somebody from NA, or if you're somebody from EU, give me your perspective on it. Flip, what is your perspective on NA players? Is this graph largely the same for you? Do you run into more toxic NA players than you do toxic EU players? Maybe it's because I have a smaller sample size of EU players that I play with, and maybe I just get unlucky and get the weird ones. Either way, let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.